I spent 20 years fading into the wallpaper. My family called me the quiet one. They thought my silence was weakness, but they forgot that the quietest people see everything. And today, they're going to pay for every single thing they took. I grew up in a house filled with noise, but none of it was mine. My name is Maya. I'm 24 now, living in a small town in Ohio, a place where reputations are everything and secrets are buried deeper than the roots of the old oak trees. My father was the town's golden boy, a local businessman who everyone respected. My mother was the socialite, the woman who organized every charity gala. And then there was my sister, Chloe. Chloe was the sun, and I was the shadow. She was loud, vibrant, and entitled. From the moment we were children, I was taught that my role was to support her. If Chloe wanted the lead in the school play, I had to help her rehearse until my voice was gone. If Chloe wanted the last piece of cake, I was told to be the bigger person. But it wasn't just about cake. It was about life. I remember when I was 17. I worked 3 jobs to save up for my first car. I wanted independence. I wanted a way out. I kept the money in a jar under my floorboards, counting it every night like a prayer. 1,000, 2,000, 4,000. I was so close. Then, one afternoon, I came home to find Chloe sitting on her bed, scrolling through her phone, with a brand new designer bag and shoes. I looked under my floorboards. The jar was empty. I went to my mother, my heart hammering against my ribs, tears blurring my vision. She took it, I whispered. Mom. Chloe took all my savings. My mother didn't even look up from her magazine. She just sighed, that long, disappointed sound that always made me feel small. Maya, don't be so dramatic. Chloe had an interview. She needed to look the part. You're the quiet one, you don't even go out. Why do you need a car anyway? Family shares, remember. Family shares. That was the rule, but it only ever went one way. The tension in our house was like a physical weight. Every meal was a performance. My father would talk about his legacy, while Chloe would talk about her latest influencer drama. I would sit at the end of the table, cutting my meat into tiny pieces, watching. I saw the way my father's hands shook when he checked his emails. I saw the way my mother hid credit card statements in the back of the pantry. I saw the red flags, the cracks in the foundation of our perfect American family. I started keeping a notebook. Not a diary, a ledger. I wrote down the dates. I wrote down the lies. I recorded the conversations through the vents in my bedroom. I learned that my father's business wasn't just struggling. He was skimming from the town's development fund. I learned that Chloe wasn't just borrowing my things. She was using my social security number to open lines of credit because her own score was trashed. They thought I was just sitting there, being quiet. But I was building a map of their downfall. I stayed in that house, working a remote job they didn't know about, saving money in an offshore digital account they couldn't touch. I watched Chloe graduate from a college I paid for via the loans she took in my name. I watched her get engaged to a man who thought she was an angel. The red flags were everywhere now. The bank started calling the house. My father started drinking earlier in the day. The perfect life was rotting. And they still, every single day, treated me like a servant. Maya, fetch Chloe's laundry. Maya, stay home and wait for the plumber while we go to the country club. Maya, why can't you be more like your sister? I would just nod and whisper, yes, Mom. But inside, I was counting down the days. I was waiting for the one moment where their betrayal would reach its peak. Because you can only push a person so far before they stop being the shadow and start being the storm. The peak happened on my 25th birthday. I didn't expect a party. I didn't even expect a cake. But I did expect my inheritance. My grandmother, the only person who ever truly saw me, had left me a trust fund. It wasn't millions, but it was enough to buy a house. Enough to finally leave. I walked into the living room that morning. My parents were sitting there, looking solemn. Chloe was there too, dabbing at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. Maya. My father started, his voice thick with fake emotion. We have some news about your grandmother's trust. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. It's my birthday, I said softly. The funds are supposed to be released today. Well, you see. My mother stepped in. The business hit a rough patch. And Chloe, she's getting married in a month. It's going to be the wedding of the year. It's for the family reputation, Maya. We had to reallocate the funds. The room went silent. I could hear the clock ticking on the mantel. You spent my inheritance? I whispered. My voice was trembling, but not with sadness. It was the first time I felt the heat of true, pure rage. On a wedding? On a business you're losing because you're a thief. My father stood up, his face turning a dark purple. How dare you speak to me that way? I provided for you. You've lived under this roof for free. I've lived here as your maid. I screamed. It was the first time I had ever raised my voice. The sound echoed through the house, shocking even me. I've paid for Chloe's lifestyle with my own credit. You stole my future. Chloe looked at me, a smug, cruel smile touching her lips. Maya, honey, you're the quiet daughter. You don't need a big life. You're going to stay here and help mom and dad when they get older. It's what you're good at. Being useful. That was the moment. The breakdown. I ran to my room, and for the first time in years, I cried. I sobbed until my throat was raw. I felt like a ghost, and nothing. They had taken everything. My money, my identity, my dignity. I looked at the ledger in my desk. I looked at the files I had gathered. I realized they didn't think I would fight back because they didn't think I existed as a real person. To them, I was just a tool. But then, I found the final twist. While I was searching through my father's digital files later that night, using the keylogger I'd installed months ago, I found a document. It wasn't just about the money. My father had framed another man for his embezzlement. A local contractor, a man with 3 kids. That man was currently in prison because of my father's lies. And my mother? She knew. She had signed the papers as a witness. And Chloe? She was using the stolen money to pay off a private investigator because she was cheating on her fiancé with his best friend. The betrayal wasn't just against me. It was against everyone. I sat in the dark, the blue light of the laptop screen reflecting in my eyes. I wasn't the quiet daughter anymore. I was the executioner. I began to upload the files, one by one, to the FBI, to the local news, to Chloe's fiancé, to the lawyer of the man in prison. I felt a strange, calm wash over me. The emotional peak had passed. Now, there was only the work. Today was Chloe's wedding day. The wedding of the year was being held at the most expensive estate in the county. Hundreds of people were there. The flowers alone cost more than my first car. I stood in the back, wearing a simple black dress. I looked like a mourner at a funeral. And in a way, I was. As Chloe began her walk down the aisle, as the music swelled, every phone in the room chimed at once. I had timed the leak perfectly. The quiet daughter had sent a mass email to every guest, every news outlet, and every law enforcement agency in the state. The ceremony stopped. The groom looked at his phone. His face went pale, then red. He looked at Chloe, then at his best friend standing next to him. He didn't say a word. He just turned around and walked off the altar. Then came the sirens. 2 black SUVs pulled up the gravel driveway. The FBI didn't care about the flowers or the silk dresses. They walked straight to the front row. Arthur Miller? Susan Miller, the agent said. You're under arrest for wire fraud and embezzlement. The screaming started then. My mother was wailing. My father was trying to hide behind a floral arrangement. Chloe was standing in the middle of the aisle, her white dress staining in the mud as she fell to her knees, crying about her special day. I walked up to her. I moved slowly, my heels clicking on the stone path. I leaned down, my voice a soft, cinematic whisper in her ear. You said, I was the quiet one, Chloe. You said, I didn't need a big life. Well, you were right about one thing. I'm very good at being useful. I handed her a folder. These are the receipts for the credit cards you opened in my name. The police have the originals. Happy wedding day, sister. I walked away without looking back. I drove to the prison where the innocent man was being held. I had already spoken to his lawyer. He was being released on an emergency motion. I waited at the gates until he walked out. I didn't say anything to him. I just handed him a check, the last of my hidden savings, to help him get back on his feet. I drove until I hit the state line. The resolution was calm. The sun was setting over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. My family is gone. My father is in a cell. My mother is broke. Chloe is a social pariah, facing identity theft charges. And me? I'm sitting in a small cafe in a city where nobody knows my name. I'm drinking a coffee and reading a book. I'm still quiet. But for the first time in my life, I can finally hear myself think. My name is Maya. And today, I started my life. If you enjoyed this story of justice and revenge, please hit the like button and subscribe. Do you think Maya went too far, or did her family get exactly what they deserved? Let me know in the comments below.